Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. In today's video, we're going to rank the Chelsea players when it comes to the first names on the team sheet. We're going to go from player number 1, the man that you already know who that's probably going to be, don't you? We're going to work its way down to number 11, and I think by the end of it, I'm going to have what I think the Chelsea best 11 is and what it should be right now, for the matches that we clearly care about a little bit more than the ones that we don't. And I think if you watched Chelsea last night in the Carabao Cup, you know exactly what I mean. So far this season, we've had an A team and a B team. We've had the Cup team, we've had the Premier League team. And as much as this has not been set in stone, there's been fluctuations in the starting 11, there's been changes. There will continue to be changes too, because of the way that Maresca wants to manage. He wants to look at the opponents and pick the team based on what we're going to come up against. It's good proactive management. It's progressive. And what I think I've come up with here, it comes to looking at the squad. I'm looking at what we did last night, and I don't want to reference last night's performance too much. I want to put that to the back of my mind. I had my run in my 6 Things We Learnt video straight after the match. I'm over it now. I'm only looking forward to Manchester United on Sunday afternoon. There are some players that you just know have to play. And I think there are some players that are growing in importance, and I want to go through that in this video. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoy this, subscribe if you are new, and I want to see you guys in the comments of this video. I want to see your list of players. We're going from number 1, first name on the team sheet, to number 11 to build the side, and then I'm going to pose some questions that I think are the current questions that are being asked of the best 11 at the end of the video. So, number 1 is Cole Palmer, of course. That is pretty self-explanatory. We don't need to have a big reveal of this one. It's so flipping obvious. The man is an absolute genius. Whether it is the goals, whether it's the assists, it's just the overall influence that a player of this ability has on the side. When Chelsea have Palmer in the team, even if the team are playing badly, you know that out of nowhere, this guy can pull the rabbit out of the hat. He's a magician. He's such a brilliant footballer. The brain that he's got, the understanding he's got about just where the opposition players are, where his teammates are, the creativity, the mental way that he just has already seen 3 steps ahead of what's going to happen. The game is being played at Palmer's pace. And obviously teams are going to try and mark him out. But I think that is the beauty of Cole Palmer. He already knows, Maresca knows, Palmer knows that the opposition are going to be trying to do everything in their power to stop him getting on the ball, to stop him being influential. And that is where the growth of a player of this ability comes. Palmer is the first name on the team sheet, no questions. Player number 2, the second most important, in my opinion, player in the Chelsea side, is Moises Caicedo. The stats that we're seeing from this guy this season, when it comes to tackles, interceptions, even passing now, Moises Caicedo doesn't give the ball away. The man is fantastic. He's been so good for us this season. And I know, I'm going to reference it now, I made that stupid video towards the end of last season saying that Declan Rice might have been the better signing. I was so wrong. Moises Caicedo, right now, in my opinion, is the best midfielder in the Premier League. He's growing in importance in this Chelsea side. And yeah, we're not top of the league. Yes, we've lost 2 matches. Yes, we've had a couple of draws in there. But it certainly hasn't been because of the poor performances of Caicedo. The average that this guy puts in is just levels, man. Moises Caicedo, absolutely astonishing. Player number 3, and this is where it starts to get interesting. And you're going to see that we're going to build to one side of me, probably this side actually. You're going to see that I start to put this together in a lineup. And I've gone with a 4-2-3-1 just to show you a representative look on the screen. Obviously, in possession, out of possession, it's different. Nicholas Jackson, for me, is one of the first names that has to be on any team sheet included for Chelsea right now when it comes to the best side that we've got. Nicholas Jackson is so important to this Chelsea team. Not just because he's scoring goals, getting assists, which this season, I think he's calmed himself down. I think the way that he's taken his chances this season is levels above what we saw last year. I think maybe this season he's even outperforming his XG as opposed to the serious underperformance of the XG that we saw from Nicholas Jackson last season. But for me, when it comes to that early season conversation about, well, Christopher Nkunku scoring loads of goals in the so-called B team, is he knocking on the door for Nicholas Jackson? Not just because of what we saw from a really quite poor performance from Nkunku against Newcastle last night, but overall, the influence that Nicholas Jackson is having on these matches for Chelsea cannot be underestimated. Right now, the partnership between Jackson and Cole Palmer means that these two have to be on the pitch together at the same time. The amount of times that these guys are linking up for goals together is fantastic. The way that Jackson drops deep, the little turns, the pace, and the releasing of the ball now at the right times. He's not unnecessarily holding on to it and running himself into trouble. Jackson has become such a key player for Chelsea this season. I think he's only going to keep growing and getting better. Player number 4, and it's Levi Colwill. For me, the best defender that we've got at the club right now, performance-wise, I think his importance to this team cannot be underestimated. I've seen a few threads on Twitter recently talking about how he sometimes puts a bit too much pace on the ball, which makes it difficult for teammates to control. I actually would agree with this, but at the same time, it's the vision that Colwill has, the range of passing, the movement. Yes, sometimes he can be a bit erratic, and the whole Chelsea back line this season has been an issue. And I think it is how easy it sometimes is for teams to literally just make 1 or 2 moves and then they've literally got tap-ins. We saw it tenfold against Newcastle last night. Colwill's not in the side. Badia Shields playing in his position. That's not going to happen again. But Levi Colwill, I think, is the best defender at the club right now. He's been magnificent so far this season. Player number 5. This is where this video becomes interesting because it's not just about building a team based on what you think tactically is going to be a good idea. That's the way that Maresca wants to do it. He's going to look at the opposition, then pick the side. But for me, I wanted to do it in this kind of ranking system because it makes me understand the way that I see the players out there on the field. And Lavia is a player that I think the more we see Romeo Lavia in this Chelsea midfield, the more important I think he becomes to this team. When you look at the way that we've struggled defensively this season, a lot of the times it's because we're being overran in the midfield. And again, not to praise Lavia by bashing Enzo Fernandez, but there is a big difference when Enzo Fernandez is on the pitch. Chelsea don't tend to win as many games. When Lavia is out there, it looks as though we have got protection. The way that Lavia receives the ball from the defenders as well in transition, really good. He's got a great turn in circle, releases the ball quickly, accurate with his passes as well. And I think as a pivot and as a midfield duo, right now, it's got to be Lavia and Caicedo. As much as, you know, people come at me and say, oh, you just hate Enzo Fernandez. Tell me right now that Enzo Fernandez is performing better than Romeo Lavia out there on the field. And I'd love to know the rational reason that you can give me behind that decision. Lavia, for me, has got to be in there. Player number 6. And remember, this list that I'm making is the way that I would pick players. And I'm trying to do this with well, Palmer's obviously got to play. Caicedo's obviously got to play. And I'm ranking it in that kind of order. Pedro Neto, I'm currently putting in the number 6 position for the first names on the team sheet for Chelsea. I think what we've seen from Neto so far this season, he's been patient. He's biding his time. He's waiting for his opportunity. Everybody in this club right now understands the role that Enzo Maresca'S asking them to do. And I don't want the result against Newcastle last night to cloud over the fact that we've made a good start to this season. The fact that tactically, I'm confident going into most games, if not every game right now, that Maresca is thinking about the setup and what is going to be beneficial for Chelsea to combat that of the opposition. Pedro Neto has just got so much class. And what I love about Neto is not only the fact that he can play on the right wing, can play on the left wing, which of course is going to put pressure on Noni Madueke, pressure on Jadon Sancho. They've got to perform. But I think the passion that Neto shows, if you look at the celebration when Nicholas Jackson converts his cross the other day for Chelsea's first goal in the league, Neto's acting as if he's just scored a 95th minute winner against Man City. He's absolutely loving it. And I love it when a player you can just see feels at home. I think Neto feels at home at Chelsea. The passion that he brings to the side, I think, has got to be out there. He's a fighter. He's a warrior. And he has got so much to offer us going forward. Player number 7. This is where this gets really interesting because this is what I think right now are the most important players. These are the players that I want to see out there game after game when it comes to picking that best Chelsea team. And I think Marc Cucurella is so important to this Chelsea side. And ironically, I think this is somewhere where maybe I differ with Maresca, because I think Enzo Maresca currently sees Malo Gusto as one of the most important, let's say, first-name fullbacks on the team sheet, whether that's right-hand side or left-hand side. I think Cucurella, when it comes to effort this season, he's putting his body on the line everywhere, even against Newcastle in the latter stages of that Carabao Cup game last night. The man was everywhere. He's trying to flip and convert headers. We had literally 3 crosses of the ball straight to Marc Cucurella every time. Not sure why we're crossing the ball to one of the shortest players on the field, but the work rate, and I think the way that Cucurella is taking on these new roles that he's being asked to do, I think right now he's being tested by Maresca. I think Maresca might look again at each match and think, well, is it better that we invert the right back? Is it better that we invert the left back? Or are we going to invert both sides because we're going to be dominating the ball and pressing high up the field? And I think at the minute, as much as Cucurella is seemingly a B-team player right now, I don't think this is going to last very long. I think it will soon be quite evident that Marc Cucurella's got to be in that side when it comes to bringing balance to the Chelsea team. And I think, again, we've seen it in that game against Newcastle last night. When you've got players that are left-footed playing on the right-hand side, there's no balance to the team. Dewsbury Hall struggled because he's out there on the right wing trying to cut back on his left. Vega struggled because he's there as a left-footed player, a left-back playing on the right-hand side of a midfield. So it doesn't make sense to me. Cucurella is going to be there. Player number 8, and I think it could have easily been in either order here for Cucurella, but Reece James is player number 8. Again, you've got to be tentative with Reece because you're not sure what's going to happen with those injuries, which is why I think we saw him in a more defensive role against Newcastle. But when it comes to building that best Chelsea 11, I think, again, it's only a matter of time before Reece gets fitter and we realise how much of an attacking threat Reece James can be in this team. If it comes to like long-term protection of Reece James, then maybe being that right centre-back when we are in a back 3 when the game's being played, maybe that is the best way to maintain Reece in the starting 11, to get the most minutes out of him defensively. We saw the work that he puts in that game against Newcastle. And we can also see the flexibility of Reece James in the way that, even if it's not the right back, because he wants Gusto there, he can also fit in at left back as well. And for me, I'm looking at Reece when he's been fully fit, when he can get a little run of games. He's absolutely key to this Chelsea side. We saw it in that Carabao Cup game yesterday. The Chelsea defence looks shaky. There are players there that aren't necessarily comfortable and confident when they're in possession. And Reece is. And it doesn't matter which side of the defence that comes. Now, player number 9. This is where it gets interesting again. It's Noni Madueke. If you'd have asked me this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'd have probably put Madueke like 5th or 6th in this order because he was playing well. He was keeping Neto out the side. Neto, I think, particularly the way that he played against Newcastle, I think Chelsea have got to have that level of quality on the pitch. Whether it is on the right wing or in Sancho's position on the left, I think that will be opposition dependent. But I'd say right now, because of how good Neto is and because of how Sancho could be useful against those low block teams, I think when you've got United coming up and Arsenal, I think it will be Neto on the left and Madueke on the right. But Noni's got to be careful because as much as right now his role is stay there on the right-hand side, offer the width to the team, isolate the fullback, take him on and beat your man. That's the instruction that Noni's being given, I think. I would say that Neto is banging on that door. He's knocking on the door on both the right and the left-hand side. So for me, when it comes to building that best Chelsea 11 and the first names on the team sheet right now, I want Neto out there maybe more than I want Noni Madueke. And that just shows the nature and how fast this Chelsea team is evolving, the way that we're growing, the way that things can change week after week, game after game. Player number 10 is Wesley Fofana, and it's near the bottom of the list here because I think there is a potential that Fofana's place could be up for grabs. I do want to say this about Fofana. I was a bit harsh on him in the podcast, but I will say that it's not perfect, and I think a lot of the issues where Chelsea are conceding pretty weak goals this season isn't just the playing out the back from the keeper, but it's the line. It's the way that sometimes he gets a little bit carried away out of position, good with the passing accuracy, good when it comes to distributing the ball. And I think Fofana's at his best when he's operating in that right centre-back position, defending the wider areas. And I think now there's still questions here about what Maresca'S best team is going to be. Is it going to be that Reece James finds his way into that right centre-back position? Then there's question marks about Fofana, because is he good enough as a central centre-back? I'm going to say no at this point. There's still questions here. Player number 11, and look, you've got to have a goalkeeper in the side. I think the goalkeeper's a big position that we need to somehow figure out, like, what the long-term solution is. Sanchez is player number 11. It's a bit anticlimactic here because, look, I wish I could sit here and talk about him with more confidence, but the reality of the situation is right now, it is difficult to be confident at all. I look like a bit of a fool. I said I wanted Sanchez dropped. Jorgensen came in against Newcastle, and again, wasn't really a performance that's tearing up flipping roots, is it? So Sanchez is still going to be the number 1. Maresca keeps on defending him in press conferences, saying, no, Jorgensen's not done enough. Sanchez still is the number 1. And I think it's kind of, this is going to sound a bit harsh, but it's the lesser of two evils in a way. Maybe Jorgensen just isn't at it as much as Sanchez. Both of their distributions seemingly quite poor. Maybe Sanchez just is a better shot stopper. I don't know. At the moment, there are questions here. And that's what I want to go through at the end. Now that we've ranked it, those are the 11 first players that I'm picking for the best Chelsea 11. It looks like a 4-2-3-1 to my right here or to my left. And that is the best 11 that I think we've got at this point. The questions, though. Malo Gusto. Clearly, he's preferred to Mark Cucurella right now in the Chelsea side. Maybe even Reece James is preferred on the left. And Gusto is that important to Maresca that Gusto's going to play whether it is the left or the right-hand side. I'm not sure how long this is going to last. I think Gusto, I really like Malo Gusto. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he's a phenomenal Chelsea signing. But again, I think in terms of like tactical flexibility, he can offer a lot because he does do well when he's stepping up and inverting. But at the same time, I think if you're going to... Maresca wants those fullbacks to almost like invert and become 8s at times. I think the end product from Gusto's got to be better. When I see him shoot, I see him blazing it over or dragging it wide too often. Sometimes he shoots when he should pass. And it's that final decision-making that I think needs to improve. But whether it's going to be Gusto permanently takes that right-back spot or permanently takes Cucurella's spot, that's still a question that I'm unsure about. Sancho. I think Jadon Sancho's not done anything wrong. I think it's easy to look at my list here and be like, well, you just dropped Sancho. Like, that was a bit quick, wasn't it? Recency bias much. Sancho against low block teams is going to be massively important. Noni Madueke seems to have locked that side down on the right, according to the manager. But Neto, I think, is just too good to keep out the team. So the big question mark is going to be, does Neto take Madueke's place or Sancho's place? And it's going to be up to both Noni and Jadon to perform at a level which makes them undroppable, which would then be whoever Neto takes, it's going to be because the other one is doing well. So I think that is going to be the big question. Enzo Fernandez, we've got to talk about him. He's the £100 million player who, in my opinion, is just continuously underperforming. Yes, he has good games. Yes, when he plays well, he plays really well. And he is the cog. He's the man that makes it happen for Chelsea. He keeps us ticking. But I don't think he's ahead of Lavia. I really think right now, already, less than 10 matches in the Premier League into the season, I think Lavia's taken his spot. I really do. And it's a big question mark moving forward about how does Enzo Maresca get the best out of Enzo Fernandez so that he can play. And I really hope that just because he was so expensive, World Cup winner, I hope that this isn't going to be we're going to keep players that keep playing well, that make us look more solid, that make us look more consolidated in the middle. I hope it's not about, well, Enzo Fernandez has got to play, right? This would just be a nightmare in my opinion right now. Lavia is ahead of him. The next question for me is the goalkeeper. I think we've signed loads of them. We've got literally so many goalkeepers on the books at Chelsea that we could start our own flipping academy of goalkeepers. It's a joke. We've got so many of them. But are any of them good enough? No. That's the crazy thing right now. So when it comes to like, how far can Chelsea go? The biggest question mark for me is, well, how far can you go without a world-class goalkeeper? Without a consistent goalkeeper? We're going to have to address this. Tosin for Wesley Fofana. When it comes to the back line not being great, I still think it is clearly Fofana and Colwill the best options. Is Tosin good enough to take Fofana's place? Probably not. Do we need a better centre-back? Probably yes. Disasi and Badiashile, after what I saw last night, I'm sorry, but they're no way near this starting 11. And the other guy that could have been, we loaned him to Crystal Palace. Enough said about that, the better. Renato Vega, what is his role in this team? I think he's an all-rounder right now. I think he could be seen as a left-back, but Gusto's clearly preferred to Cucurella, so Vega's the third choice left-back. No Ben Chilwell anywhere to be seen either, so we're not going to pose that question. But Vega can also come on and kind of steady things up a little bit in the midfield. So I think he's definitely got a role, but it isn't near the first 11 when it comes to the best 11 that Chelsea can field right now. And then obviously the big one, we've not mentioned Joao Felix. We've not mentioned Christopher Nkunku. When we heard Maresca speak earlier this season, it was Mudryk and Sancho on the left, Madueke Neto on the right, Jackson and Nkunku as the strikers, and Palmer and Felix as the 10s. Right now, Joao Felix has done nothing to suggest that he overtakes Cole Palmer. Joao Felix right now is a luxury bench player who only comes on if Chelsea are 2 or 3 goals ahead. And I don't think if Chelsea and the game is really tight, I'm not sure there's enough work from Felix that we've seen so far to suggest that he's coming off the bench even. Which we saw it against Newcastle, like it was too risky to bring him on. And even in the game at Liverpool, Maresca doesn't think he's doing enough to be able to bring him on, even when you're losing. Big question marks about Joao Felix right now. Christopher Nkunku. After what I saw last night, I thought we just got the Lukaku back when Lukaku was bad. The ball was bouncing off of him. And if you look at what I said earlier about Jackson, Jackson just cannot be dropped right now. He keeps on scoring in the league. He involves so much with his other teammates. And that relationship with Cole Palmer is too good to see Jackson step out of this team. So for Christopher Nkunku, it's very difficult as well. And look, I've not forgotten that Nkunku's got 8 goals this season. I've not forgotten that Joao Felix was excellent against Panathinaikos last week. But if we learn anything from that defeat to Newcastle last night, it's that the Conference League standard isn't even close to like the mid-table Premier League standard, to be honest. Ghent, Servette and Panathinaikos have not tested us anywhere near as much as Newcastle did at St James's Park last night. So, as a result of that, I think last night's game taught us a lot about the depth in this squad, a lot about the quality, and a lot for Maresca to know and understand that as much as he didn't make the right changes, I'm over it now. I'm only focused on Man United this weekend. If Maresca did learn anything last night, it was that the Premier League 11 is a lot better than the B team. Simple as that. Let me know your thoughts on the rankings that I've given. Let me know if you change anything. Let me know what you think is going to be the best 11 come January. Will we need to sign players in January? Your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video. Come on, you Blues.